Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House here with the transcontinental Charles Coulombe.
Transcontinental, I like that.
Transcontinental, because your realm spans from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Very true. Very true.
You're going to Washington, D.C.
I sure am. I'm going to go to D.C. I'm going to lecture about 2 of my books in front of a fraternity. That's very exciting. I'll be doing some other things in D.C. I have not been summoned to the White House. I will not, contrary to rumor, be marrying Nancy Pelosi.
Oh.
Now, I know the rumors are out there, but it's not true. She and I are not an item. We're not even good friends. I've never met the woman.
Okay, well, that's a relief.
Yeah, well, I think so. I just think that the people who are spreading these rumors are small-minded and nasty. And I wish that this would stop.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I wouldn't marry Barbara Boxer either.
No, boy.
Or Dianne Feinstein.
Dianne Feinstein?
Whatever. I wouldn't marry her. I wouldn't marry all 3 of them.
Wow. Okay.
The package deal, I wouldn't marry them.
Well, okay.
All right. We got that straightened. Well, you know, one thing that's great right now is that this is the build-up to Mardi Gras. Bum, 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 bum. And boy, are they celebrating upstairs.
Yes, they've already started.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The suits, I'll tell you what, they may be pretty tough with him and me, but they know how to have a good time like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oof, masks and jambalaya and throwing beads from the 23rd window of the 23rd story down on the unsuspecting passersby. I wonder what they think when they get hit by beads.
I know.
At any rate, it's a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited in the sense that leaving LA, I don't know, for me it's always like a rebirth. It's like leaving the womb, you know. It's like past lives therapy, basically. That's
interesting.
What it is. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. You kind of just leave the craziness for a while and
go to some other craziness.
Go to us, yeah.
Yeah, deal with someone else's problems for a change. No, it's true. It's true. You know, I've learned a lot recently. Apparently, there's if you're suffering anxiety or anything like that, you know, there is a cure for it.
What?
A food cure.
A food? What, eat a lot of food?
No, specific food, molasses.
Molasses?
I heard it on the George Jones show. They had a caller, and he was going on and on and on and on about molasses. He was a little incoherent, but apparently he really stood by molasses.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's kind of new. I've never heard that before.
I hadn't either. I was very much impressed. He was saying how he only drinks soda made out of molasses now. And he gave some to a friend of his who was somewhat less than impressed. He went on at great length about the whole molasses thing. I feel I could, but I don't think that would serve the purposes of the show.
No.
No. All right. Well, then we'll skip the molasses for this time.
Okay.
But I am looking forward to D.C., and for those of you whom I may see out there, looking forward to it. For those of you whom I don't see out there, too bad, so sad. My schedule is still very much in flux.
Okay. So after Mardi Gras, we talked a little bit, is Valentine's Day / Ash Wednesday.
Yes, the great holiday this year. Well, you know, I've heard that love is a battlefield, but now love is a penance. So you want to be sure to take your girl out to, I don't know, Denny's. Make her pay.
Wow.
No, that is funny though. I really don't think, ladies and gentlemen, that the ashes on your forehead are going to be very conducive to a romantic supper.
No.
No. So probably you should do it on Mardi Gras. You know. I mean, gosh, I can see the 2 of you staring at each other's fish and chips or whatever fasting and abstaining food you've got. Ashes on your forehead. You drive me wild with penance. Now, take her out the day before Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm. What is the origin and history of Valentine's Day? It's not based off Saint Valentine, is it?
Well, so they say. St. Valentine, for reasons I'm not really clear with, has always been the patron of lovers.
Is there a reason for that?
There is. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't. I mean, there's in the legend of his life, he had something to do with or for lovers, and that's how he got stuck with the job of being their patron. I say stuck because, it's one thing to be the patron of married couples, because there's something there.
Yeah.
But to be the patron of lovers, how long does that last?
Okay.
I know, if you're really in love, it lasts your whole life long. Okay. But I don't know. For some of the marriages, I know Ash Wednesday is a better.
So what is the origin of Valentine's Day?
Well, I mean, St. Valentine was a Roman martyr, I think, in the 200s under Diocletian. And there's something in his legend about his having helped a pair of lovers or carried messages or something. I forget what, but it's something along those lines.
And it's been Valentine's Day ever since?
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, in recent years, they like to say there's some sort of pagan origin to it. But I mean, every holiday we have, they like to say there's a pagan origin to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pagan origin to toilet paper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry if that wasn't more helpful, but make it a penance to look up St. Valentine yourself. What else we got?
Okay. Eric Thomas has a question. He asks, in the past, Catholics would sometimes whip or beat themselves as an expression of contrition for their sins.
Yeah.
Does Charles believe this is an acceptable spiritual practice today, and if so, what are the appropriate guidelines for it?
Well, St. Louis Marie de Montfort speaks of it in True Devotion to Mary, and he says that one ought only to do it if one is under the careful advice of a seasoned spiritual director. I've never done it myself, and of course, we live in such a sexualized society that people look at pain as a means of pleasure. Perhaps our ancestors were so strange that they thought pain was simply pain and not a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there. But, I mean, certainly I'm not going to put myself above many great saints who used it. But they all did so in accord with a very carefully selected spiritual director. I've never had one of those, and I've never used the discipline either. So all I can tell you is it worked for some people, worked for Saint Junipero Serra. But it was the same thing. He had a spiritual director who directed him in its use.
He had a couple follow-up questions on this. Are there any priests in the Catholic Church who are open to this kind of penance?
I have no idea. I know some I'd like to put through it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but that's different.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind beating them, though.
Wow. His last follow-up question is there a good resource today for learning more on this?
I really don't know. There must be, but I have no idea.
Yeah. It's not exactly in fashion, self-flagellation nowadays.
No, it's not. And the thing is, you can get so much of the same effect just by trying to live a Catholic life publicly. You can get all the abuse you want.
Well, yeah. Ain't that the truth?
No.
Okay. Let's see. I think, sort of that, I personally think do that after you've done, if you've got the fasting down, if you've got, there's so much other stuff.
There's so much more stuff.
Before you have to get to there for hair shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's not in fashion, because that's like...
And see, we don't do it. I mean, stop and think for a second. Lent, which is coming up, all right, we're put upon because we have to fast on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And then we have to abstain from eating on the Fridays of Lent.
Yeah.
And that's all the most of us will do if we do that.
Yeah.
Somebody may give something up for Lent.
Yeah.
But the idea of going without meat and dairy products and eggs all through Lent,
Yeah.
except for Sundays, is just impossible. We can't even, and yet that was the standard practice. Those people who had the guts to tackle Lent,
Yeah.
they were the ones, the more perfection-seeking among,
Yeah.
began to think of, well, maybe the discipline.
Yeah, see, because they're already doing that, and they even needed more
Yeah.
than that. That wasn't even enough penitential stuff.
Yeah.
So see, we don't even.
We get frightened of having to go without a meal.
Yeah.
You know, oh my heavens!
Yeah.
Sort of the Hobbit view of penance.
Don't be trashing hobbits.
Well, they didn't like going without food. You know that.
That's true.
6 meals a day when they could get them.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next question is from Matthew Hanratty.
Well.
After watching Off the Menu, I purchased a copy of the Liturgical Year for this upcoming Lenten season. I live in Ireland, and there are very few Latin Masses celebrated here, and none where I live. I am only able to attend a Novus Ordo Mass, but the proper of the Mass in the Liturgical Year does not match the proper used at the Mass I attend.
No, it won't. It won't.
Does Mr. Coulombe have any advice on the best way I could utilize these prayers and texts during Lent?
Yeah, yeah. Take them along with you to church and read them alongside everything else. And don't leave church till you finish, you know. I use them to attend the new Mass, and I pay more attention to Dom Granger than I do to what's coming out of the Missal. I read what's in the Missal, of course. But his explanations of the old lectionary are so much fuller than what you're going to get out of the pulpit. So that's what I would do. Just take him along to Mass and read him in his entirety while you're there. After the Mass or before or whatever. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Oh, okay. Next question is from Teddy. I read that in the past that prostitution was usually never illegal, but simply frowned upon, even in Catholic countries like the Holy Roman Empire. What are the reasons for that? Today we have a situation where in most Western countries in the world, prostitution is illegal, but many other types of immoral behaviors are not just legal, but even encouraged and promoted by the liberal media. What's the deal with that? Can you please explain what is the traditional Catholic teaching on how a state should be dealing with the matter of prostitution? Should it be legalized or not?
Well, all right. Firstly, there are a couple of things you have to bear in mind. One is that in the Middle Ages, canon law, the Church's law, had the same force as civil law.
Yeah.
The reason, for instance, that a heretic could be delivered over to the civil arm for by the Inquisition to be executed as the very last resort was because the Church law had the same standing. Now, the reason why this stuff like homosexuality was legal, in the sense that there were no laws in the civil law against it, there were no laws in the civil canon about any morals back then. And that's because the church courts dealt with moral questions. You know, the great story of William Thomas Walsh, that the Inquisition in Aragon sent more shepherds for bestiality to the stake than heretics.
Whoa.
Well, I wouldn't want to be a sheep in Aragon in them days. Anyway, so that was part of it.
Uh-huh.
That's why the Protestant legal systems in the 19th century in places like, or early 19th century, in places like Sweden and England and America, brought in these laws. You notice there were no anti-abortion laws. There were no anti-contraception laws. There were no anti-sodomy laws. These all came up during the 19th century. The reason is that the church had dealt with them, with the force of the state behind it.
Oh.
But the civil, the civil governments that inherited those setups, since the church was pulled out of the picture,
Right.
they just weren't legal. In the moral law, it was up to the church to police. Now, mind you, if it was a very egregious case, they would turn the person over to the civil authorities to punish.
Oh.
But usually they gave penances and things like that. Same was true of heretics. That's why, as I say, more bestialities were executed by the state at the behest of the Inquisition than heretics.
Ah.
Now that was one half of it. The other half, though, too, is, in our own day, the prostitution, of course, is rife.
Yeah.
In ways that we don't admit. Pornography, what's the difference between prostitution, which is having sex for money, and pornography, which is having sex on camera for money?
Yeah.
Or having sex with a still camera for money.
Yeah.
How is that not prostitution?
Right.
So, I mean, we're pretty twisted.
Yeah, we've got a lot of weird laws like that.
Well, I mean, look at the age of consent things. If I go to sleep with an 18-year-old girl, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if I give her booze and cigarettes, that's corrupting a minor.
Yeah, it's crazy. That reminds me of one of my favorite Soul and Church quotes. She was talking about marriage, and one of these, crazy. We're so against. I'm not promoting this, but we're so against polygamy.
Yeah.
She points out that you can have as many husbands or wives as you like, but they have to be sequential.
Yeah, that's right. It's serial polygamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great line.
Yeah,
it's why do they have to be sequential?
Well, because you can't have them all at once. The government couldn't tax them.
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, well, see, Johnny Law wanted his dough.
Ah.
Got to get a finger in there, get some money,
Okay, next two questions are from Jose.
Hello, Jose.
Where does the Spanish title Don come from? And does it actually refer to a person who holds land or any type of property?
Well, it comes from the Latin dominus, which means Lord. And it can mean a landowner. It can mean the mayor domo of a parish. It can mean anyone who's a person of respect. You see. Anyone you look up to, you can call Don. But obviously, in an agricultural society, the major landowner of the neighborhood is definitely Don, whomever.
So it's not a formal thing, so I don't get
No.
who decides it. I mean, it's not like Senor.
No, it's not by the community. Why do they call him Don Carlos? Well, he's the biggest landholder here. He is the biggest ranchero. Sí, senor. Don Alejandro owns everything from here to the river. That is his land, his ranch. You do not want to mess with the Don Alejandro. Many people have tried, senor. It has not gone well for them.
Okay. Very nice. Jose's second question. Did the church have knights in the same vein as the local lords and kings had? Or were there just orders of knights like the Templars and Teutonic knights? For example, a bishop with enough power and influence having his own knights.
Well, first you've got several different things going on at once. One is the Holy See, the papacy, which of course had armies in days gone by. So they had their knights. The captain general of the Holy See was the commander of the army, and he was a knight. He was a commander. They have the Holy See eventually had its own orders of knighthood, which it still has, Sylvester and the Gregory and so forth, and the Holy Sepulchre kind of. Also, up until the mid-19th century, every Christmas Eve, the Pope would bless a sword and hat, which he would send to a particular warrior who had done very well by the church that year. Dom Garanger goes into this ceremony in great detail. But did they have knights, or did bishops have knights? Well, yes and no. Because you see, in a lot of places, France and Germany and so forth, most of the knights were members of the feudal hierarchy. Most of the bishops and abbots. So they were responsible to the king to provide X number of knights. but they couldn't do this themselves.
Mm.
So usually what would happen is a local nobleman would take on the job of raising sufficient knights to take care of the bishop's requirements. Then that individual acted as the defender of the diocese or the abbey, and was usually called the advocate.
Mm.
But in terms of having their own armies of knights, this may have happened here and there, but it wasn't too common. Obviously, he'd have a minimum number of troops around to protect his territories, but not much beyond that.
Okay. Next question is from superfan Matthew Olson. Would you talk a bit about St. John Bosco and his gospel magic and the use of magic in evangelization?
No. No, I will. Basically, he used magic tricks and all that to get people's attention and to point them to the higher realities. And this is true of, this is as good a method of evangelization as anything that's ever been used. The Jesuits in China used scientific experimentation to impress the locals. The idea being that if the person knows how to do this much, surely he knows something else. And it's something else you're trying to get them to be interested in.
Well, wouldn't that, I'll play devil's advocate and say, isn't that setting these people up for a fall? Like, well, magic is fake, isn't, then transubstantiation or whatever, this religion's fake. It's just a illusion.
Oddly enough, when you have someone like Don Bosco who knows what he's doing, no. It's similar. I mean, it's like they're taking polls on children, and those who were taught to believe in Santa Claus, if they felt betrayed when they found out. And the vast majority say not at all.
Mm.
Not at all. If anything, they were happy for that period of belief. So.
Okay. Our final question is from P.F. Andolo. Greetings from Miami, you the Bard of Blue Bloods.
Oh.
In the interest of expanding the Star-Spangled Crowniverse, please develop some backstory about the Benedictine reforms in as much detail as you can muster. How much worse did things get for the Church before they were implemented?
Huh.
Who implemented these reforms and when? Specifically, what reforms were made? Did the Benedictine reforms lay any of the groundwork for the clergy faithful around the world, and specifically in the USA, to be more accepting of monarchism in the future? Could the Benedictine reforms be useful to us today, even not considering political concerns? I think we should explain what the Benedictine reforms are, firstly.
Well, by the time my story gets underway, the Church is obviously in much better shape then than she is now.
In this fictional story.
In the fictional story,
Yes.
she's in better shape than she is now in the real world.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fictional story all takes place in the future. And in the future, in my fictional world, the Church is much better off. She's had several popes who had their heads screwed on tight. And is doing pretty well. Although what's going on in the state actually is not very good and has its repercussions. So to the opposite of today, where the state has something of its brain tied on to some small degree, and the Church is really... Anyway, so what?
No, that's fine.
You didn't want me to go into a whole analysis of the Holy Father, did you? Good.
No.
I won't.
No.
He doesn't want one. He doesn't need one. And gosh darn it, he wouldn't take it if you gave it to him. That's called the Holy Father's self-affirmation.
There you go.
Anyway, no, so what happened to the Benedictine reform? Well, several things. Latin, of course, made a huge comeback. But at the same time...
Why?
Why? Because it makes perfect sense. You've got a very multinational church.
It's a dead language, though.
Yeah, well, so's English. But no, because of the ever-growing numbers of the church around the world in non-European settings, having the Mass in Latin, as much in Latin of things as possible, made perfect sense. So that's one thing. Secondly, the devotional life of the church was much greater than it is now. The ordinariates had blossomed to a great degree more than they have now.
Mm-hmm.
So all that was part of the Benedictine reforms. I presume he was probably Benedict XVII and his successor Pius XIII.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay.
And of course, the as to which one of them had his one of his predecessors' bodies dug up and burned and blown to the four winds, I couldn't speculate.
Is that in the book?
No.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't there when it happened. So
Oh, you weren't there? No. Okay. So what were the Benedictine reforms you had in mind?
Well, as I say, the return of Latin, the return of Gregorian chant, the tightening up of church discipline, the extension of fasting and abstinence, a much heavier attempt to reunite, cooperate with the Orthodox. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, okay. Okay, so it sounds like they could be useful reforms for us today.
Well, they could be if we had a pope that was interested in that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
If we had another sort of pope who perhaps was more interested in Mao's Little Red Book or some other relic of his far-off youth, that'd be another story.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for this episode. If you enjoyed listening to Charles, please remember to subscribe to the Tumble House YouTube channel. Oh, don't forget to like our videos. You guys, it dwindled down. Make that part of your routine.
You know, it's a dogfight out there, a cat race. We need your help, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, think of the poor secretarial pool upstairs. What will the ladies have to type up if we don't get more invoices?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want the secretarial school sitting there idle, would you? No. And the suits upstairs. You push for them, or they're going to have a hard time justifying the next fact-finding trip to the Bahamas, which is coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
They want to see how. Excuse me. They want to see how publishing is done in our sister city of St. John's in the Bahamas.
Yeah. Research and development.
Yes.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm for it. I'm a company man. I said this before. Go Bahamas. We need it. It's essential.
Yes, thank you. I was afraid when I was sensing.
Nope.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. One thing is, ladies and gentlemen, Vinny and me, we stand behind Tumbler House's company policy 100%. That's how we stay here year after year.
We'll see you next time.
God bless you, kids, and remember, the soul you save may be your own. Ciao.